We're live. We're live. Some people are starting to join here. Let's see if I recognize anybody. I have some.
This is a neat interface.
Yeah, it's cool. I actually announced this to my chat today. So hopefully some people could catch it live. More people watch it on the replay, I find, than live.
Uh-huh.
But that's
When they
okay.
can make it, yeah.
Yeah, it's not always timely for most people, especially if they have a day job. So I see Katie Dean. Hey there. Hi, guys. Thank you for joining. So, I'm Carrie Loranger, founder of Nine to Thrive, and I'm joined by Rich Carr today. Rich has a very different business model than I do, which is why I brought him on today. Um, so, what I find really interesting about Rich is that um, he didn't come to Substack to grow a newsletter. He actually came to Substack for public accountability to finish a book. Okay, so he wanted that accountability piece. He thought Substack would be great because of the supportive community. And then what happened was he accidentally uncovered a whole new multi income stream business that he could build around his thinking intellectual property. So, um, Rich, I'm going to let you introduce yourself. You could probably do it better than I can. I would love to hear more about your thinking business.
Yeah, you bet. Rich Carr, I'm a learning scientist actually, and that's where I'm at today. I've been a lot of things. I've been a radio station owner. I ran sales for Telemundo. I've had an advertising and marketing agency for the last couple years or last couple decades, since 1999. Uh, and about 9 years ago, became a learning scientist after an accident that I had. And I won't go into that story now, but basically, that's who I am. I've written 3 books on the subject of the learning sciences and cognitive neuroscience, which is kind of a geeky mouthful for how somebody processes new information and how they internalize it. And even more simply, when somebody presents something to you, what makes that person say yes and become a part of it? And there's no simple answer to that, of course. But my words, my desire was usually around the written word, and there's a lot of reasons for that. Right out of high school, I was writing record reviews for Spin magazine because my English teacher told me I had a knack for it, and I've always loved that kind of uh, power that words have. And I was sharing with Carrie just prior to the show here. I was really moved by the Police back in the day, back in the 80s. The song "Da do 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 da 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 da." There's a quote in there that he says, "Poets, priests, and politicians have words to thank for their positions," and that always resonated with me. As like, you're right. I mean, everybody of power says the right thing at the right time. There's a lot of things that go into that. Anyway, my life's work has been to try to figure out what that was. Eventually, it came to the brain because when I was a radio seller, it occurred to me that all people had the same brain and all brains process information the same way. I mean, I was taught that in school. So if that's the case, then I should be able to develop the perfect sales call where every time I pitched it, they would say yes. And this was during the 80s. So it was Gordon Gekko and Greed and Reagan and Trump's first book and Yuppies and all things spend. And I got into Dennis Waitley. I got into Napoleon Hill. I got into NLP. And I got all into this geeky, thinky stuff and started to realize that thinking is like your own internal software, and you can basically direct yourself anywhere you want. I mean, we barely use any of this brain, and you can develop models to where you can change instantly and permanently and bring on new information quite easily if the information is presented in a way that the brain processes the information. So the whole business was built upon marketing gone brain science, and AI has kind of forced the hand where suddenly this thinking is unbelievably sexy in the marketplace, from large enterprises down to everybody. And primarily because AI has taken over that lower order thinking. Like this, everyone knows how to research, but it takes so much time to research. Well, AI part as a partner, it can research quite a bit. You still have to use higher thinking to evaluate it and judge it and whatnot. But there's all these things that come together with thinking. And there was nobody really in the marketplace that said, here's how you think for fun and profit, so to speak. And one of the biggest parts that I took on getting to where I'm at is to take this knowledge and go, okay, what do I do with it? And the first thing I needed was a brand. And I went to Canada, actually, a group up there called Legacy Creative. And I said, here's my mess. Help me turn it into something clean looking. I can do the words. What I have today on brain-centric.com and all the stuff I do on Substack and all these things emanated from that initial visual brand work. And then over the years, it was just getting that down into products, which I have many. And that was the original impetus to getting to the 5 tiers that started with this show. So it was kind of a long intro, but it gives you quite a bit of background of where I'm coming from and how I approach it. Because at the end of the day, it is the words you speak and how you speak them and who you speak them to and the nuances thereof that decide a yes or a no. The media is never the issue. I mean, so you can say it, you can write it, you can speak it, you can be on TV. It's always the message. And the message starts with words. Substack has been an unbelievable benefit to change my own thinking just out of my own network that's grown and the stuff that I read. And people just really, they're thinkers. They're not drones like in some other platforms. Not to do that kind of game, but it's a platform like no other where people actually they're here to build people up regardless of what they do, even in my own little weird corner of the brain.
Yeah, I mean, I know I felt at home on Substack. It's just a very authentic place so
Mm,
far. It's growing. We'll see what happens, but yeah, I met the best people, and I think I met you, Rich, because you just dropped some comment on maybe one of my notes that I thought was, I don't even remember what it was, but I thought, oh, this guy would be somebody that I could bring on and talk to. And then I asked you in the DM about your business model,
mm,
and I'm gonna go over Rich's business model just really quickly. It's long, but of course he has a long career at it. So he put it in tiers for me. He spent some time putting this together for me. But what he's got going on right now is he has enterprise and licensing. So he has a cognitive transformation program. You have organizational licensing. So um, that's another one. Then you have another tier with certification and high touch, you called it.
yeah,
And this is a certification program. These are inside your client organizations, you said.
correct.
And then you have something called the Certified Invisible Influence Coach, and you're licensed to teach the influence system. You also have the Cognitive Divide Keynote. That's AI era thinking skills for live audiences, which is sounds really intriguing. And then you have the Brain Centric Design Workshop. This is your flagship in person experience. And you also do for online for team training. Did I get all that right?
Yes.
Okay. And then you told me you're going to build next. And I assume this is after coming to Substack. Um, you're going to build the Substack paid subscription model. You're going to build a nest egg clarity toolkit, a cognitive glide path quick start.
Hmm.
That's templates and scripts for conversation preparation. Um, challenge wheel facilitator start kit. You have a whole bunch of stuff, is what I'm getting at, that you're going to build out here on Substack, including online courses and live experiences. So, um, I just wanted to point this out because this is a different model, but it is still that multiple income streams or that portfolio business. So, how's it going on the build out? I should ask you first.
Fabulous, and thank you for asking. On the website right now, on our website, which is brain-centric.com, um, like you said, there's a lot of products, and that was my biggest issue on bringing them to market because everybody who brings them to market, they all have a similar looking store. Here's some stuff, click on the stuff, there's more explanation, buy the stuff, which is universal. Amazon kinda taught us that, and it works wonderfully if you know what you're looking for. And that was the biggest thing that was holding me back is half this stuff, it's hard to explain what I do until they see it. So we started, something called Start Here on the website, and it is literally, 3 questions, and it points you to the doors that, you should go to based off of the answers that you ask. And they're very simple, questions. You might be an independent professional, or maybe you run a team, or maybe you run a business. And the idea is just to run you through 3 quick questions, I mean, 3 quick clicks, and then give you a variety of different things that you can get. And this is where really the tier strategy comes in. And the first tier is a digital or free entry. I now look at Substack. It was an accountability piece, but I truly, really now look that it's my proof layer. The stuff that I write about, I was going to do a paywall. I have had pledges. I think it's up to, I don't know, like 180 a month or something right now, but I've
Ooh,
decided not to enact it because to me, Substack is, every article is basically a free sample of what we teach. And if you look at the way I approach all sales and all communications, there's an overarching theme that I call affect before effect. There must be some sort of emotional connection before there's a business outcome. So to me, Substack is the emotional connection where they actually get to go through my thinking or a framework's thinking. I try to do a framework a week and go, oh, I didn't know you could do this. Like a couple weeks ago or a month ago, I did this thing called self identity on demand, which is a story about Sergeant Rock when I was in the military for 8 years. And half the time in my head, I was Sergeant Rock, this cartoon character that was in comic books as I was a kid, because I didn't want to be there per se, what I was doing. But Sergeant Rock, he was military, he was lived for the Corps and his team and all this other stuff, and I volunteered for the military. So in my head, half the time, I was this huge muscular Marine, even though I was in the Army, as this huge muscular Marine with ripped up clothes, bound and determined to do everything I was supposed to do as a soldier. It was still me, but in my head, I was operating on his position, and it's a known, it's called self-identity. And, you might go, "Oh, in this course, I need to be or in this presentation, I need to be super salesman," or "I'm on a date and I need to be Mr. Suave," or whatever it is. When you name those personalities, it's much easier to, um, input their behaviors on whatever it is you're doing. So if I'm super salesman, I'm gonna do all the things super salesman does. And it's just a fun way of looking at bringing your information out. But Substack becomes that free one of the free layers, just like, YouTube. We recently, crossed 10,000 subscribers on YouTube, and we do 1 to 3-minute snippets of neuroscience, and it's not like school. I mean, I don't wear a cloak, or I don't have a robe, and I don't poke prods into things. It's just little segments that you didn't know you could do that anybody can do, anybody, with their brains. It's just amazing what you can do with this thing, and it's now becoming so much more, um, sexy is probably the word I use because we were never taught to think, only told to
yeah.
think, and typically what to think of. So we're really just what people have programmed us to be, and once you realize how to run that software, which is, there's a lot of pieces to it, but they're all pretty simple, and most things can be picked up as soon as they're presented, as soon as you experience them.
So, you said an interesting thing about we were not taught to think. And I think I realized that really early on in my high school education. So I became a thinker, and I was in music. I was a cello player. I was really heavily involved with music, and that sort of analytical thinking that it's supposed to be a good basis for mathematics, which for me, I never did. It never connected the dots. I'm just, I'm a musician. But, I actually I wrote a book, and it's not published, and I've just kind of put it on the shelf, but sort of the premise of the book is that our education system was built 150 or more years ago,
Mm,
and it was designed to train people, kids, and, to be good workers, right? So, if you think about, like, at the time, it was sort of the assembly line model, right? Or
yeah, yeah,
the beginning of the corporate world as we know it today, basically the early iteration of that. And if you think about it today, that education system hasn't changed. It parallels the workday pretty precisely. You go in at 8, you sit at your desk, you do some work, right? And then you have recess. And that's 10 o'clock. You get your 15-minute break at work, and then you work a little more, and then you have lunch, and then you
yeah.
work more, and then you have another break, and then you work more and go home, and then you rinse and repeat 5 days a week. So this has never evolved to a point where the education system has the potential to teach people how to think and how to be entrepreneurs. I was in my 9 to 5 for so many years. Actually, I say 18 years, but it was actually more like 20.
Mhm.
And I was so enmeshed and embedded in that pattern of this is the way it is. This is the only way to make money. My dad was a chemist for General Motors. He was an analytical chemist for 35 years before he retired. And that was really the only model I knew of how to make money. So yeah, that's the thinking. The thinking part only happened. It happened for me early in life, but I didn't act on it until later in life.
Yeah, I just always thought it was fun, honestly. And actually it's a neuroscience rule. You can only learn in a state of joy.
Yeah.
You can't learn and in a state of joy, there's 50 other emotions in that one emotion. But you can't learn, when you're bored. You can't learn when you're, fearful. You can't learn when you're entrapped. I mean, you physically can't. 80% of what's coming into your brain is routed to the animal brain. People call it the animal brain, but that's that reactive brain. That's fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. Just stare in the headlights. And 80% of the information goes there because there's so much information coming in. When you understand how to basically filter what your brain is looking for, it's called the RAS or the reticular activating system, uh, which I can briefly explain. It's like you buy a red Tesla and you think it's the greatest car and you bought it and you put all this thought into it and then you get it out on the road and suddenly there's red Teslas everywhere, just everywhere. That's because your brain is now wired to see them. Well, you can have wire it to be successful, meaning, I'm going to look for people who say these things because that's what I'm interested in. And even like how I met uh, Dr. Kiran Amani, he's who I co-wrote Brain Centric Design with. He's a cognitive learning neuroscientist, and I had kind of put out the vibe to my network that I was looking for a neuroscientist on another project. I was working with Nike. Lo and behold, my son's girlfriend, now his wife, but my son's girlfriend's aunt was at a family picnic the following weekend, and she was talking about stalking this neuroscientist up at the University of Washington because he talks about this one specific thing. And so I asked my son, I said, "Do you think you can get us an introduction?" And 2 weeks later, we're having coffee in Seattle, and a year and a half later, we're writing a book because another mentor had told me, for multiple streams of income, if you want to open the doors that you want to open, then you need to have the dedication to put that body of knowledge between a cover, because
Mm,
people look at that, uh, as the fact that you had that you did that, and that it's packaged and it's available. Whether it sells or not, it's a lot better of a business card. And that
yeah.
was really true reason for the first book, not only to document the science, because he had the science, but it was in a abstract, PLOS type of peer-reviewed way, very hard to read for anybody who's not a doctor. At the time, I was working on another project. I said, "Boy, if we could translate this for business, I think it would be huge." This was 8 years ago. We did in the form of the book. As soon as we had the book, all of a sudden, doors that never opened.
Mm.
Uh, and each successive book has built on that intellectual property, which is a whole nother story. With the AI, suddenly 3 volumes of knowledge and 70 Substack articles are a body of work in which my AI can pull from and answer for people, and those become products. Because rather than read 3 books, well, why don't I pay $5 for an app or something? And then suddenly it multiplies, and it's mailbox money, and it's evergreen because it's how your brain operates, but there's no place to grab this information to where you can just ask it a question and say, "Give me the answer," versus "Teach me something." There's so many new things happening because of AI, because of
Oh,
Substack,
yeah.
because of the collaboration that's now available, because everybody's been burnt on other platforms of trying to keep up for what? And that's the great thing is even though I don't have the biggest audience here on Substack, I can tell you of 3 projects this year that I have secured because of Substack, and I have hired 2 different Substackers to do work for me, one of them a quite large, build for, a product that that she does. I mean, to me, it's a
Wow.
whole new world, and
Oh,
I'm just
yeah,
so
it's
open to hearing what people have and what they need and how they wanna ease into the hot tub because they're real people, not just looking for likes or comments or growth. They're here too, but I mean,
yeah.
there's other real people with distinct areas of influence or desire, and I love those those opportunities.
So one thing you mentioned earlier is you're not charging for your newsletter, and, you know, I I charge for my newsletter has become more of a my paid tier has become more of a community.
Mhm.
So I do a monthly roundtable call. Um, I give them tactical guides every week, things that they can work with. And then the idea is to get on the coaching or the monthly call and, we talk through whatever their challenges are. So that's been working really well. And I do teach people who come from a business like yours. You have this massive business already built.
Mm.
People come to me all the time. They have a coaching business somewhere else. They have other things going on, and there's no need to paywall if you have that. You're using this newsletter. I always say Substack is the funnel, right? So if you keep the newsletter free or paid, it really doesn't matter. It's what you build off of it.
Well, and it's present tense with the paywall because one of the things that's back there in the background is again out of the 3 tiers, 2 and 3. Tier 2 is online courses and tier 3 is live experiences.
Yeah,
And what I'm thinking about doing with the paid tier is making it you would learn brain centric basics, so you would learn the basics of how to operate your own brain, but the paid tier would only do content for people that have gone through that training so that they're in that world. And so we have several thousand of them out in the world that aren't a part of Substack, but I could make that available to them with a coupon. And then anybody that pays for the annual, they'll be a part of these cohorts that go on every week that learn
yeah,
and be a part of and collaborate with others, which we do via Zoom or Teams, depending on things. But that's the kind of thinking I'm talking about because somebody will say, "Well, couldn't you just do this?" Well, really without too much, thinking, you can now. And on Substack anyway, you can find the expertise to do it. Like this thing I wanted to build, I don't know if you know who Karen Spinner is.
oh yeah.
Uh,
I've had her on the show.
oh,
Yep,
she is fabulous. I mean,
I
she
know.
is
Yeah,
fabulous.
yeah,
Daria Capranu,
yep.
AI Blew My Mind is her channel. As far as learning how to do things, learning how to market, that's how I got on your saying. The reason I made a comment on your your channel was every day you're serving up marketing tips that took 20 years to acquire if you were in the business, and you're pumping stuff out there of great value, and there's no other document on here or no other platform like that. You can go on LinkedIn and there's a whole bunch of "I'm honored to be here" and all this other rubbish. Here, there's actually uh, stuff that will contribute to your own life if you just look for it, and then talk to the people. Because I've spoken to people on here I never thought I would ever speak to, and they're accessible with a quick DM on Substack,
Yeah.
and you
Yeah.
reciprocate. You just it's so easy.
I've had a lot of people coming in my programs lately that are struggling with growth. Um, and what it takes time to build this stuff. I came in with a extensive 2-decade marketing background. Yes, that was my advantage, and I leveraged that for sure. But what I decided to do on Substack was provide as much value as possible. I'm giving people the what and the why. What's possible, why you need it, if you're considering doing, in my case, monetizing. And then the execution and the how is what you get in my paid programs. So not everybody is ready when they read my first thing. There's a lot of mental work you have to do to get ready to build this business and monetize your knowledge. It's hard. I mean, the number one thing people struggle with the most is getting their publication description down and who their target audience is.
Yeah, I've
And
changed
and
mine
that's
6
that's the
times.
thinking piece that you teach. That's the clarity you need, and it is so hard. It was hard for me even. Mine's still evolving, I feel like sometimes, you
Yeah,
know?
it does, and I think it will, and I think it should. And I think that's a key takeaway is that it's never done. This is never done. The way
Never.
we think today is not the way we thought last year, and if you would have told me 5 years ago I'd be doing what I'm doing now with this knowledge base, no way. No way. I mean, because before it was just corporate L&D. So a L&D department here, I can reduce the training time and increase your scores and people will work better. And we proved that, and it went all the way up the food chain and eventually even to Columbia Teachers College in New York, where we had 40 educators and scientists from around the world to chop up this methodology and say, what's wrong with it? Not a one. In fact, we got an encore because
Mm.
it's cognitive thinking. It's not a behaviorist model. And to make that even simpler, every one of everybody on this call, and thank you all for joining as the numbers keep going up. That's really fun to see. But everybody on the call has been taught the same way, which was, up until kindergarten, no matter what you did, it was cool. Finger painting, it was great. Suddenly at first grade, you started getting put into a box. Oh no, the blue doesn't go outside of the box. This word is spelled this way, or you have to say things this way. And we got, programmed, not in a bad way. I mean, school. But it's behaviorist. It's passive. Here's a whole bunch of stuff. We're going to do quick recall, and that's just remembering. Well,
Oh,
this is not a remembering machine. This brain, it's a perception machine. It's a prediction machine. And if you can make school intrinsically motivating, like a hobby, just to put it into simple terms, if you can make learning like a hobby, because if you have a hobby, you like learning new stuff about your hobby. That's a cognitive shift. A behaviorist shift is sit down, shut up, here's a test. Carrie, you get an A, Rich, you get a D. Rich, you didn't remember what color Washington's shoes were when he crossed the Potomac. Like that has anything to do with life. But
Rich,
that's
I
how we're taught, to your point earlier, the
I
Model
can't
T.
believe this conversation. Do you know, I had the hardest time, 4th grade, learning my multiplication tables. The teacher literally said, "You can't go out for recess until you learn these." To all the students, I was one of the last ones. I didn't get the numbers. I'm really good with words, but numbers, not so much.
It's the
Uh,
reason I homeschooled. I mean, I homeschooled
oh,
our
yeah?
kids. I took them out of school because I mean, I went in for a teacher conference and the teacher says, "Okay, which one's your son, Jesse?" This is my son's teacher during the teacher conference. "Which one is your son, Jesse?" And I like, "You don't know my son after 3 months?" Well, there's
Ooh.
4 teachers here and we call ourselves the dream team. So kids, float around between the classes. And I said, and after 3 months, you don't know who Jesse is. And I went to the
I
principal
know.
office and complained a little bit, and I just finally said, "Forget it, I can do better than this." And, they're employed, they're launched, they're all good right now, but the system itself, even if you look at the nation's report card, which you can Google online, but the scores have never increased any year. There's always some kind of reason like COVID or, I don't know, the
Oh,
great Northwest spotted ferret bat or some kind of reason somebody didn't learn something. But the nation scores do not go up. We go down because we're
true.
using the behavior system, the remember system.
Oh
And
my
this
gosh.
thing
So
is memory's flawed.
I have to tell you one more thing about that. So, well, I have to tell you 2 more things. My I used to have I used to have so much trouble remembering and taking tests and things in school. I remember I went through a period of time where I was failing tests and I had to retake them. And I had my dad, after I was asleep, come in and play a tape recorder with I think I talked into what I needed to know for the test, and he'd play the tape recorder while I was sleeping because I read somewhere that that helped. But it was my rote memory that wasn't working because I had all this creative energy, I wanted to do these other things. And I'll say too that after I left the corporate world, in the corporate world, I was a marketing director, but I had very specific lanes that I was swimming in. And all the things that I wanted to do with marketing, all the cool platforms, technologies, techniques that I could do, connecting systems and making things work together in an integrated fashion. That wasn't necessarily at my disposal until I left my job and started my own business. I have become a far better marketer
Yeah.
since I left my marketing role than
Yeah.
I ever was in a corporate job.
So true. That was like my eureka moment where I was working again for Paul Allen. I was his director of digital, and this is in the mid 90s, mid to late 90s. And I'm looking at metrics from web trends for the first time. Radio was always 3 months behind on ratings with this thing called the Arbitron report. And suddenly on a radio station, you could see who was listening, or who was
Yeah.
tuning in and it was like, so that was my thinking is instead of just selling this group of there's the radio stations and the Portland Trail Blazers were part of it and some other stuff. But rather than just sell this one body of stuff, if I was on my own, I could sell any media. And
Yeah.
that's all that took. I left. It was wonderfully employed, but it was when you're on your own, uh, and if you're comfortable with making those kinds of decisions or looking for mentors or collaborators or partners or fill in the blank, which there is a lot of, um, you can do anything. The knowledge is there now, and AI only elevates that if you use it as a partner to, help with the commodity thinking is what we call it, but help with that and evaluate everything else you get out of it to make sure it fits your voice. And that's even easier now with skills. Some of the stuff that's in some of these bigger models, and I didn't really learn to do that until Daria had basically a how-to on her channel. I was like, oh well, let me plug this in,
Yeah. Yeah.
and just overnight, all of a sudden, up, 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 up. I mean, I'm individually doing the work of 8 or 10 people in a week, and I'm doing it in less than 4 hours a day.
Yeah. Same. Same. That's leverage, right? We're leveraging these technologies. And
Yeah.
Substack's a perfect place because you run into all these people that are I try to stay in my lane, of course, but solo creators really need this stuff, and that's why people like Karen Spinner and Sam Millingworth is doing a lot around that,
Oh,
Dr.
Sam,
Sam.
man,
I
just to keep your feet on the ground, subscribe to Sam.
one of my favorite guys.
Slow AI is his
Yeah.
channel.
Tech Tiff, she's great. Caro, they all write about
Carol.
the stuff, Ruben Hassid, Charlie Hills, they teach stuff that is incredible,
And
and a
they just
lot of
hand it
it's
to you.
free.
They just hand
Yeah,
it to you.
yeah, and this
The
is a
biggest problem is whittling down to which one you're gonna dedicate the time to, but you need to know where you're going again. You need to know your own big idea or why people should come to you in the first place rather than just jumping on the technology. And that's usually
Yeah,
getting it down to one big thing. I can help with this. and
So right, so I'm always partnering up with these guys to test whatever they're building, because kind of my space in this is to bring solopreneurs that middle piece, the middle I call it the middleware between
mm,
the AI technology and the need to hire people. We can do a lot more with some of these technologies, but they have to be set up correctly, and
yes,
that's complicated in some cases, and it's a time suck. Like, I don't know if you saw my, Dheeraj Sharma and I kinda partnered
yes,
up.
yes.
And Dheeraj is a great guy, and he's gonna be launching some stuff on his own that's really cool. But he and I chat quite a lot, and, we did a tutorial on how to build an automation with N8N to create thumbnails, consistent looking thumbnails with, your likeness.
Mhm.
Um, and this saves creators tons of time. So these things are all really helpful. So Laura, hi Laura, I just saw you in somewhere else this morning. I think you asked me a question or made a very insightful comment, but I'll get back to you. But anyway, you said, well said. That happened to me too. Much better marketer now that I have my own flexibility to iterate real marketing. And I think that comes back to the joy part. Like, you
Yeah.
can't think when you're not in a state of joy.
Well, yeah, you can't understand new information, and it's when you're in a, uh, a red state of mind, basically, when you're in your amygdala, which is 80% of the time,
Yeah.
and when you can find the fun in it, rather than say, "Ooh, I have to learn that," you can do a simple, not trick, but just a way of looking at it like, "Oh, I have the opportunity to bring this on." Or this is
Yeah.
gonna add to my hobby if it's a side hustle. Because way back in the day, I read a book called Multiple Streams of Income, and it was about real estate investing or, early flipping of houses. So this was back in the late '80s, I think, when I read this. And, it was amazing to even get past my thinking. My dad was either in the military or worked for Boeing, and that's who you worked for. And I
Mhm.
just never really had that drive to go, commute in and do that. I just was always bouncing off of walls and doing everything else. And the multiple streams thing, well, I could do a little bit of this and a little bit of this and a little bit of that. And if you monetize these 5 tiers, which I do on a dashboard, I can see what's working and what's bringing stuff in. And I started with the enterprise stuff because of the books. But
Yeah.
through the years, everybody keeps asking, well, I don't want to learn 14 weeks of certification. I just need to bring my chaotic thoughts into one big idea. How do I do that? Oh, well, that's the nested egg.
Yeah.
Here's how we do it, and we do it for people where they say, "I want you to do it," and it's similar to your discovery kind of call. You can just book some time, and we'll roll through it, and
Yep.
it'll solve everything, and it works every time because it's how your brain works. And this
Exactly.
is, it's getting into schools slowly but surely, but education's a big machine. You think pharma's big, education, you're all sending your kids, you know, 6 hours a day. That's a huge business. And to get that ship to turn is much harder than taking matters into your own hands and maybe not going to homeschool, but working with your kids, teaching them things, teaching them AI. I mean, this is not going away. This is what much bigger than a calculator when I was a kid, obviously, but it's very similar in that I no longer have to draw out all the different parts of an algorithm or an equation to get to the answer. I just need to know how to enter it. And
Yeah.
prompting is the same way, or working with AI as a partner is the same way. And like I say, I use 3 different browsers, 3 different AIs for big issues because I want to evaluate the consensus of the 3 and then have them basically challenge to each other because they have biases, and
Oh,
I use
yes.
them that way.
Oh, yes. And, try generating images with AI. Biases exist there
Oh, boy.
really strongly. Yeah.
And I love doing that. I mean, Gemini is my go-to there just because that Nano Banana 2 is mind-blowing. And I changed
Yeah.
something in my business because I do rely on a lot of graphics, and Gemini, has taken over, I would say 60% of the graphic work, just because of learning how to use that to do the things that I need to do for both visual graphics and video. And one of my
Yeah,
biggest tools for other, like I am still on LinkedIn. Um, and the reason I am is because I found, just like on Substack, a lot of people get stuck on growth with a subscriber count. And as of this recording, I just crossed 300, which is not a big number. But these are 300 active people. And,
yeah,
and for every person that is a subscriber, I have found, I mean, not only can you see the impressions of your article, but I'll get calls where all of a sudden, oh, I read your stuff on Substack and I want to go, gee, why don't you like it or comment? But I read your stuff
yep,
on comment. So I reached out on your website and I want to talk about some stuff. So it's not about the likes or the comments or even that kind of growth. If you've got 300 people in a room listening to you intently, that's a dream, and
yeah,
that's exactly what it is. And the I focus on Substack. My little strategy is that I write an article a week, a framework a week on Tuesdays, and then that's the inside the house, and the note structure I put around it are windows into that house.
yeah,
So uh,
exactly.
that has worked out pretty well for me. So I'm it's
Well
working well.
done. Yeah, that's the way I teach. So I say, get
Oh,
your
I probably learned it
overarching.
from you then.
I was just telling someone in my academy this morning. I said that your publication is your overarching theme, right? So mine is build your portfolio paychecks, right? But under that, you have your content pillars. These are
Yeah.
the things you talk about over and over again. They kind of they're the tent poles of that overarching, theme. And then from there, that's what you create. You use those content pillars as the stake in the ground for what kind of content you're going to create. You basically say these six things over again the same way, but with different angles and different approaches and different frameworks. Everything has so much depth to it. You can just pick a piece and talk about that piece and then write your notes about that. And that
And the
is what
brilliant
brings people in.
Yeah, and that the brilliant thing about that is it directly correlates with how the brain likes to learn. It doesn't like to learn once. You can tell it something once and you probably forget it.
Yeah.
It likes to learn through multiple lobes, meaning that they need to read it, they need to hear it, they need to see it, they need to touch it. So there's four learning lobes in the brain, and most of school, regular school, is just one lobe, a lecture telling you something, and then you have to recall it. But there's four other lobes. Now, you might think you're a visual learner. That's your preference, but you're still hearing stuff, you're still experiencing stuff, and you're still thinking about stuff. So when I'm doing my notes, I always include in the week a video, a graphic, an image, a story, a quote, as you said, multiple perspectives on the big idea of that particular week. That is how the brain learns. And that's why you're
Yeah. Yeah.
successful. And that's why people keep joining your programs, because you're not slinging hash. You're actually using frameworks of how the brain loves to learn. And there's
Oh,
no
well, good
wonder.
to know.
I mean, you've got
Good
this
to know I
wonderful.
got good to know I got it right
Oh
by
no, it's
accident.
fabulous. I mean,
You're putting the wording and the wrapper around it, but this is how I think,
That's
but
let
it's
me steal that quote. That's exactly what I'm talking about. That's the beautiful thing about cognitive neuroscience is it just gives you the why to stuff you already do. It's like,
yeah.
"Oh, you mean I think that way too?" Yeah, it's just being aware that that's something you can think, or that's a way you can think. Because again, you haven't been taught these things, but when you find out that an analogy is probably one of the strongest educational tools that you could ever use, then you start using analogies all the time. Because if I say I'm going to teach you something new, I'm going to show you this widget thing. It's really amazing and it's this giant thing. The smartest thing to say right after that is, it's just like making sourdough bread. Yep.
This is so spot on. I use analogies all the time. My favorite one is about the multiple income streams, and I use the fishing analogy. I say, "You can go out in the lake in your rowboat, and you can cast one line out, and you might sit there for an hour, you might sit there for 8 hours and maybe catch one fish. but if you have 12 lines in the water, you catch 4 or 5 fish in the first hour, and that's how multiple income streams work.
Absolutely. Yeah, you also
This
have a
is it.
crab pot down there and you're dragging a gill net. I mean, you try
You have your
everything
little
with it,
picnic on the beach.
and it's curated just for the things that bring you joy, and that's what
Yeah,
makes this fun is everybody has their sense of joy, whatever it is, and it's even within your own job. And even though I was in these really wonderful businesses like radio and television, my first job out of college was with the Country Music Association in Nashville, and half my time I just went to industry parties and said good things about country music and worked with their radio stations, and I couldn't even believe that was a job. And I did well at it because I had so much fun at it, and not only that, in that job, you got to meet people that were all over the music industry, from the artists themselves to, big producers, big owners of record labels and things like that, and then you find out that these people go home and, they like eating stroganoff and they'll laugh at a Simpsons joke. They're just normal people. They, like you, just have a specific passion in life, uh,
exactly.
and they use it rather than tell some or go work somewhere where somebody says you're worth this much an hour. That was a thing that always got on me. It's like, "Hey, I feel like I'm better than that." And I probably wouldn't know it until I tried it, which is why I started all this back in 1999.
That's amazing. Yeah, I wish I'd done it earlier. I was a single mom raising 3 kids,
Ooh,
and I was always terrified of not having financial stability. That's why I stuck with the job for so long, because I was it for them. I
yeah,
was the supporter, and I had, even it was such a struggle, and I couldn't there's a time there where you go from that paycheck to your own thing, that it's terrifying because you don't know if you're gonna make it.
it is so
And,
terrifying.
yeah,
There
once they
there
grew up and got a little bit older, it was, "Okay, I can do this now," but that was always what held me in my role. But what I say to people is I always had side hustles. You can
mm,
build a side hustle while you're working, and Substack and the newsletter is the perfect place to do it.
it
Do
is.
it while you have a paycheck. It doesn't matter if you don't make a dime. You're testing, you're learning, you're adapting, and you're building something that one day could become your full-time job. So,
And I think one of the missing things from that checklist was collaborating. Again, I mean,
mhm,
I've probably spent most of my time talking about other people I've met, not only on this platform, but others. But the reason is because they elevated what I was trying to do. I mean, I couldn't do what Karen did. I had an old version of it and I said, "Yeah, but I want all this magic and I don't know." And, because I started programming back in the COBOL Fortran days, which is not like today at all. And and this, she is just a thinker and she goes, with this you could do that, which is I'm wide open to because look, you're really good at this. What can I do? I understand AI quite well. I have built some agents. I have built some stuff. The little start here on my website I built with Claude
ni
Code,
yep,
and it was just a iframed copy paste. Amazingly, that would have cost me $2,500 from a programmer had I not known that. And it took me
yeah,
maybe I don't know an hour and a half to get to the version that's on the website, from impetus to on the
yeah.
website.
I have
And
that too. I did, my newsletter pricing calculator, works great. That's on my carrieloranger.com website. I don't it's somewhere on the Substack, not particularly visible at the moment, but that's been, cobalt. Yeah,
Yeah, there's somebody with
Fortran
skills
cards.
right there. Fortran
Yeah,
cards, yeah.
Robin. Thank you, Robin.
1.5-inch discs, playing
Yeah,
something that's more or less than Pong. Those were
yeah.
great times, but it did give you that if then equal structure, which really parlays into marketing, which really parlays into this conversation, if then
Oh,
equals. And if you look at the world that way, rather than chasing shiny lights, but you have a big idea, meaning to me, I use the word big idea a lot, but that means after I'm done talking, what is my audience walking away with? Not what my talk
yeah.
is about, but what do they actually leave with? Then,
But
uh, with the big idea, you have to have a measurement. How do I know I'm successful? And with me, it was just what's moving the needle with sales. And at first on Substack, like you say, not so much. But then people just started talking and talking and talking. And now it's like every day I get a couple new subscribers. And while I watch that count, more so what I really watch is outreach or what people are saying. And then I look for patterns and do any of those patterns match with my IP or what's going on now.
Yeah.
And like right now, I've got two huge enterprise projects going on, and the stuff that I'm writing about, I have to be NDA and all that. But the stuff I'm writing about are thinking concepts for this business that's exploring this thing. And as I work through them, I publish them. And
Nice.
it's those things have turned out to be really nice because I travel a lot. I work with everything from retail to banking to insurance to food to e-commerce, and they all have the same thing in common: is they're trying. Everybody is trying to be more human. We're talking about all the cool AI stuff, but with all this cool AI stuff, the real thing is that connection at the human level because that's what AI is taking away. So if you have the opportunity to connect with somebody like I'll use Karen Spinner again because we're working on this project, just the communication style back and forth, the level of trust that used to be with being in person. Nah. We got on Zoom a couple times. I said, "What about this? What about this?" She goes, "What about this?" And then suddenly we've got a working model. And here in a week or so, I'll be releasing that thing. And it's already an anchor of my business because I've used this other model of this thing that I built that didn't keep up with the technology, which is why I brought in her. It's like, hey, here's something built in PHP and MySQL, and it doesn't scale the way I need it to, nor communicate the humanness of it the way I need it to.
Yeah.
She made it. She made it so.
I should reach out to her because I've built something that I absolutely love. It's called the Creator Profit Engine, and it you put some inputs in about what you're doing and who you're helping, but it will do market research. It'll help with your brand messaging. Um, it will look for um, it will look for untapped markets in Amazon books,
Mm.
YouTube, other places that you might not have thought of, and it will help you get keywords. It will look at long tail keywords, and then it actually suggests digital products that you can build and videos you can make for your YouTube channel, and it writes the script. I mean, it's amazing.
That sounds
And
amazing.
then and then I have a I have there's tabs, there's different ones. There's low ticket, mid ticket, high ticket. It will help you build you out those offers. And you can get the landing page, copy this, the emails for your launch, everything. It's amazing. I don't know what to do with it. Like I
Yeah.
can try to sell it, but I need a whole it's big. It's a very helpful thing. So I'm going to
Well, that
have
yeah, go
to
that I would encourage you to go to Karen, and, that's
yeah.
that's the same reason I went to Calgary, to Andrea's firm was I had to not be me. I needed somebody who was out there and had chops, and she's amazing, especially if you have books, as far as branding is concerned, but she gave me just totally different eyes at a level I needed, but a totally different eye on what it was, and helped me answer that question of who are you? So it's great to go outside, and whether you get it free on Substack or you reach out to some of the companies that are available on or through or who that that other perspective on what you do, you don't have to take it 100%, but it's going to be somewhere between where you are and where they are, and that's where the human brain really is in at its best because I can say, "Well, I like this but I like this and I like this," and then now you're suddenly thinking of a new thing, highest order thinking. You're
Yeah.
literally creating, and you get that stuff written down, and then you run it past Carrie. Say, "Carrie, can I give you a link? Can you just play with this?" I don't know how many people I've done that to, and they all do
Yeah.
it, and they
Yeah.
all give you honest feedback. In fact, my 3rd book did not go by the name, because of Substack, the accountability part. The Invisible Influence was originally called Professionals Prepare. And then
Oh,
some lady just goes, "Well, that's the dumbest title ever." And not like a LinkedIn or a Facebook kind of troll, but she backed it up saying, "It's so generic. Professionals prepare what? That,
oh,
you know, why would you limit your audience?" And then a bunch of other people started cheering in as if they were coaching me. And I remember I was driving back from Texas. Went to go visit my daughter, had a baby, and I was driving back from Texas, and the discussion's going on in my Tesla, and I was just digging it because they were truly saying, "You've got a great idea, but it's that's the wrong name," you know, and it ended up being Visible Influence, and has been one of my greatest door openers with business ever because it's a cognitive approach to influence rather than the behaviorist approach that Cialdini has that we all grew up on. So it's just a way of thinking
wow.
about influence instead of influencing somebody through a tactic.
You're giving me an idea because honestly, that's where my book is stuck on the title.
Ti Throw it out
It's
there.
it's
I
written.
even did even the cover. I had an idea for a cover, and then I met this cat named Hristo, Hristo,
Oh,
Hristo.
Christo.
Yeah,
I know him really well. Yeah.
he
Christo
designed my book.
Bukarev? Yeah,
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 he's over in, not Romania, like, Bulgaria.
Bulgaria, yeah.
Yeah.
He designed some of my early stuff, and I actually, I wanna say, convinced him to come to Substack.
He's crushing it because
I know.
he has
He's a
a
great guy.
distinct niche. He has a very clear way of articulating graphics and how people emote to them.
Yeah.
And I showed him this thing, and I thought I was gonna be charged all this money, and he says, "No, no, I can have that for you tomorrow, and it's X. Give me a PayPal link." I gave him X. I had a cover the next day, and not only that, but I had the iterations I needed for Amazon's book market. So I needed this size for this and this
Okay,
for
so
Audible.
at the time, I had asked him to do my book cover, and he wasn't doing it. He wasn't doing them, but I think since he's been on Substack, he sees the need in the market,
Yeah,
I'm guessing. I don't know.
this was, like, in September when I asked him that.
Okay, yeah. He
So, I
is a
mean,
great
it's,
guy.
but
He's camera shy. I'm trying to get him to come on
well,
live. Oh,
he is a business asset for anybody, and even if you don't hire him, just the stuff that he pushes about how to place, our the new website again, the branding came from somebody else, the layout came, from to a great point because of Fristo and the rule
yeah.
as for that. And then some stuff that I did on AI as a background, and of course, stuff that I knew, because what I wanted was a big store. I just didn't want anything that looked like a big store. I wanted the
Mm.
people to find the stuff so it was their idea versus here's a big store, buy something. You know, I was just trying to do a different approach to it. And the start here button seems to be pretty Jake right now. I'm tickled with.
I might try that because I just did a new start here. It's, it's not quite where I want it to be, but it's it's also on my Substack, but it starts by where you're at, which is what your tool probably does, right? So are you just starting on Substack? Are you growing? Are you ready to monetize? Here are the things I offer. I mean, it's okay. It's actually pretty nice, but I like the interactive approach too sometimes.
Yeah, that was again, it's a neuroscience. People love to be in control. And even the page starts up, it says 3 questions, 2 minutes, and you'll have your answer. And
Yeah.
so I'm here for this, I'm looking for that, and one thing leads to another, and you have all that information. So it's, right now it's been kind of neat to play with. And the biggest thing I've noticed out of it is the free channels have kind of exploded, uh, as opposed to, well, actually everything's doing pretty well, but the free channels, people weren't aware of them, and the start here gave them that because, even though I have a lot of subscribers on, say, YouTube, not a lot of people on Substack even knew I had a YouTube, like, because I don't talk about the YouTube, you know, I talk about thinking. So it's
Mhm.
a lot of different, ways to skin a cat, I guess.
Exactly, yeah. Some people are asking for Aristo's info. I'm just gonna drop his profile link in Substack on here. Um,
Yeah, he's great.
yeah, I absolutely think he's really helpful for a lot of people. So,
He is.
yeah.
And even like I say, just to subscribe to because the knowledge he pumps out, um,
Oh,
man,
yeah. He's
stuff you didn't think about.
he's really good. I gotta say I knew him before he was huge. I started working with I mean, and you can grow fast like that if you have the right words put together and the right offer, and always make your offers about them, not you, and, all this stuff that both Rich and I probably teach, very, very important for getting started. You'll grow faster if you're absolutely crystal clear.
That is it. That's the big idea. That crystal clear, you know that, and that's the biggest. People ask, what's if you were to leave people with one thing, what they really need to know to communicate effectively, what would that thing be? And it sounds kind of facetious, but my answer is typically a point that you can say in less than 7 words, like
Yep.
a billboard on the highway. Y-
Build
if
your
you can't
portfolio
explain
of
it like that,
paychecks.
yeah, yeah, yeah. If you can say it just like that, like Christo on his LinkedIn, he says, "I'll turn your messy do-it-yourself into a premium personal brand."
Yep,
Well, that's exactly what he does.
it is. Yeah.
And the magic part of the magic of what he's talking about is that he knows what he's talking about, or he has a point. Most people know what they're talking about. They just haven't thought enough through it to say, uh, "I teach the thinking AI can't replace."
Yeah.
That's pretty, and
Yeah.
and if people lean in on that, well, tell me more. Then I can get into what I'm doing. But that's one of the biggest fears in the executive world right now is, AI anxiety. I was on a podcast yesterday with Sheila Hamilton, who is global. She works with mental models and whatnot. And it was all about AI anxiety. And she says, "How do we
Mm.
cure it?" And it's like, start playing with it.
Oh,
You you
yeah.
you have to get your feet wet with this. This is like it's bigger than anything, more disruptive than anything I can ever really think of. I mean, it's bigger than computers, way bigger than computers. The computers were pretty revolutionary, but this
It's
is
like the
now,
internet.
yeah.
It's like
Yeah, yeah,
remember
very
the
much.
internet? Like, I mean, I remember I was a journalist in the '90s, and I used to type and fax, okay, my articles into the newspaper.
Yeah,
And then we got CompuServe
CompuServe.
was like the first way to email stuff.
Yeah.
And then Google came on in early
Netscape was out there too, that
Netscape was out there, yeah.
and
Then
AOL
we
even before that, I guess.
we had Ask Jeeves, remember Ask
Ask
Jeeves?
Jeeves, yeah, the butler.
Yeah. I liked Ask Jeeves actually, but then Google is better, and then, yeah, this is just the next evolution, basically.
Well, even think of it like that, those early days of the internet, that's where we are with AI. I
It
mean,
that's what
this
I'm saying,
hasn't
yeah,
even,
it's the next turning point in how we work.
yeah.
Yeah, it's the next
And I think
chapter.
that's why I say just go play with it right now and do what you can't do. Like, we'll do this, we'll take a picture of our fridge with the phone, and I'll give it to Claude, and it's like, "Well, you see what I got in the fridge, what can I cook tonight?" "Oh, you
Right.
can do," and seriously, it'll give you, I mean, that's just a fun use of it, but I mean, decorating, weight loss, I work out a lot, and it manages my workout routine based off of strength things I put in there, keep me on this things, mobility, all these different things, and it's just so beautiful.
Okay, Laura says CompuServe still exists, and the site is a time capsule of 1988. Oh, that is amazing. Wow. 1998, sorry. But,
1998.
yeah, I mean, I gotta go check it out now. It's like
Oh,
the technology
CompuServe.
that never evolved or something. Alright, guys, well, thank you so much. Hey, I wanna just tell I would just I'd love to share people's origin stories, and, you know, Haristo was selling he was in the retail. He was working retail, and he didn't enjoy that. And so this must have been, I don't know, almost 10 years ago now. But so what he started doing instead was he started learning Photoshop on the side in his off hours. Self-taught, started learning the principles of design and illustration, and eventually started taking on clients. He said it wasn't a big thing, like, he started out with infographics, and he said people kinda made fun of him back, in Bulgaria. They're like, "Yeah, there's no need for that. What are you talking about?" Well, then he discovered the international markets, and wow,
Boom.
his business took off. He was able to leave retail, and now he does this full time. He has a family, 2 beautiful kids. So, I mean, anybody out there who's, like, stuck in a job and not sure, just get passionate about something, start learning it, and figure out a way. I mean, Substack is full of people doing the things that nobody else has done before.
Mm.
So, just look at how they're doing things and what they're doing, and it's gonna just get those neurons firing, right, Rich?
It really is. I mean, it's, if you took, 1 hour a day just to and I do that, 30 minutes in the morning, 30 minutes in the night, where I literally just read. I'm not writing my stuff. I just read, or somebody will say something to get my mind going in another way or connect it with what I'm doing somehow. And it seems like the magic of Substack, regardless of what you do, and mine's kind of an example because, oh, I write about thinking, which is weird. It's something I'm passionate about, and and it was only one part of a communication sequence that I've been enamored with since school. My degree was mass media in the military. I'm in psychological operations and mass media and PR, again, radio, television, print, internet, of course, and out of all those things you could focus on that I do know how to do, the thing I love most is watching somebody get it. I love watching the light
Yes.
bulb go on. If I have a passion, it's that. Now, if it happens to be for the number 3 company in the world, or, the guy down the street, or this person who just started a Substack and has a weightlifting, gym, and all of a sudden he reached out and said, "Hey, you said something about the gym." Well, we started talking, and suddenly I love talking with him because he's passionate about it, what he does, and it's like, "Well, just say it this way, but do this first." Let him
Yeah,
feel good about you before you say, "Come lift weights." Let him know that you're
exactly.
a person, and Substack does that, and it does take a
Exactly.
while, like I say, but don't focus on the numbers because even if you're not getting massive numbers, people are reading it and those people are moved by it. And maybe they don't want to commit themselves to liking something. Or what I recently found out, especially in higher level corporations, they will not comment or like something for fear of later that thing coming up in some other thing within a corporate environment, which is
Yes.
just such horseshit. I mean, if you look at that, oh my God, to be in that much fear where you work to where you can't even on your spare time. So
Oh,
know that
I was off of LinkedIn for 7 years, I think, or more, because I was so afraid of any kind of scrutiny from.
retribution, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I literally just did not post a thing on there for at
And
least 7. It might have been more.
I looked at the research on it, and I think it was like something for every like you get, there's 19 people that have read it that didn't collaborate,
Mm,
which is really nice, really nice thinking, "Oh, I'm at 20x what I'm at right now." Uh, and I'm
yeah,
the same way. Maria just wrote that. Yeah, my best clients never comment or share anything, they just buy. And I would say the same thing. I don't have
yeah,
clients come and say, "Great post, Rich." But in the
no,
next phone call, they'll say, "Tell me about, metacognition because I'm not, my mid-level managers are missing this thing and how can I get them to go there?" It's like, "Oh,
yeah. Yeah, I get a lot most of my business comes from the DMs. A lot of times it's people that just saw something.
mhm."
Sometimes they're not even followers or subscribers, they came across something that just they had to reach out and find out how to do something. So, yeah, and then let's see, there was one closing thing I wanted to say, and just thank you so much for coming on today. Um,
My
oh,
pleasure.
okay, yeah, oh, yes, I have people DM me. This is Emma,
Oh, I
that
love Emma. She's like
that
in
they
Sweden, I believe. I
okay.
subscribe to Emma. She's a thinker. She's all over the place thinker. You have to, like, wear your tennis shoes to keep up with her. She's fun.
And she's saying, yeah, she's had some people that won't like their articles because it shows up when employers look them up. Totally, I get that. I was that
Yeah.
person for
So get out
years.
of the mindset of saying, "Oh, nobody liked this article." Oh, they
And
did, and the people who
I
did are the ones you needed to reach. Be
I'm
happy
gonna
with that.
tell you this, I had a former coworker who would regularly look at my social media even after I left and kind of, I wanna say almost shame me for what I
Mm,
was doing, for building this business, in fact. And, what can I say?
karma.
And I blocked the person. I blocked
Yeah.
the person, and that caused a big hoo-ha when I blocked them. So,
I
I
don't
don't know
know. I
what
don't have to
that's
worry about that now, and that's what
yeah,
makes
I
it
don't
so.
anymore, but that's how it went, and it can happen. And it still really kinda makes me uneasy when I talk about it. It was just really I just didn't understand it. It was bewildering to me. But anyway,
There don't be a lot of those on Substack, again, Substack, people seem to reach out and I can tell
actually,
you
yeah.
without a doubt that every enterprise engagement I have, and I'm working in the Fortune 5 right now. There are 2 active engagements in the Fortune
Mhm.
500, but one of them is in the top 5. But every relationship started with somebody saying, "Can we try this on 10 people?"
Yeah,
So and that's it. And then one thing, it's almost like that old Breck shampoo commercial, they tell 2 people and they tell and so on and so on.
oh my gosh, throwback moment.
Remember that one? Yeah.
Yes, for sure.
A great commercial, but that's really how it is. It's just connecting with somebody, that affect before effect. Don't try to sell anything. Make them
Yeah,
feel good about what you do, even if it's something super bizarre and whack and niche. Show the passion in it, and then there are other people out there go, "Oh, I was just thinking about that the other day. I didn't know that was a thing." Suddenly there's a
yeah,
conversation, you're a real people, and you can wake up and enjoy the day and do what you love to do.
yeah. Hey, Maria, thank you for your comments there. I see you. I don't want you to feel neglected.
Yeah.
But yeah, so, um, I wanna say, Rich, this has been a pleasure, and it actually
Mm,
some of the things you said just reminded me that, especially the aha moments, right? Like
mm,
you said, when you see people that's why I teach, and I still do the live teaching because I love it. You were in one of my workshops. I think you saw some aha moments going on there.
mhm.
You might have even had one yourself.
I did, I
But
have
yeah,
a I really did out of that. There was a thing that solidified as a product. I can't even tell you what you said, but it was like, "Ugh." And one little sidebar to this product, again, working with this other enterprise thing, I said, "Hey, I've been doing this thing, and here's a demo of it. I'll show you, but, let me know." And he looked at it, he goes, "Are you licensing this?" It and yes, of course I am. But it was because and this was only what, maybe a month ago, in one of your workshops, but you had said something, and it was just so wonderfully simple, and I mean that as the highest form of compliment because I got up here on the wall, I've got Einstein's quote, "Everything should be as simple as possible, but not simpler." And I tried and you said something, and all of a sudden it was like, "I'll be damned." That's
was it the naming formula or something like
well,
that? I
the
remember
naming
you told
formula
me.
was beautiful because it was just so simple.
Yeah,
It
but
was
it was
just the 3 anchors in the naming for it wasn't so much that, it was another thing where, the value was I didn't really realize that I had a marketable body of knowledge IP, something I could put inside
mm,
a shell with AI and do stuff with. And then I tried this thing with it, and it was very not part of what I normally do, but it was still in the same family. And then I presented it to the director of this thing that I'm on right now, not as a part of this thing, but I said, "Hey, you're a thinker." He's an MBA, and I was like, "You're a thinker. Look at this. Tell me if what you see." He goes, "Can I get this for my people?"
this is a digital product you built from my
Yeah,
course?
yeah.
Rich, I gotta get a
Well, it's not ready
testimonial
to
from you.
release. It's not doesn't have all the pretty things on it because I had to do
But
some legal with it because
still,
right away it was a thing, and it
I
was,
I need yeah,
counter counterintuitive to what a lot of people think it might be.
I'm gonna send you a link. Honestly, I'm terrible about asking for testimonials.
Well, I'll without a doubt, because again, it happened in your course. There was another fella that has gone to multiple courses. He had said something. I know about where it happened, and I always keep yellow pads around me. I have multiple yellow pads for different reasons because I don't try to remember anything. I write stuff down, I record it. Uh, Memory's flawed, and I don't like to
Yeah.
forget because, I hate to have something and then lose it because I couldn't remember it. That seems like a flaw. Well, no, it's just the way the brain's built. It's not made for that kind of retrieval. Paper is,
Yellow pads are.
recordings are. So I use those. And now with AI, I can shove all this stuff into a project and say, what was that thing I said about a thing with a thing? And suddenly it was like, oh, give me three perspectives on this thing. One like Carrie, one like Emma Clint, and one like Elon Musk. And then it's going to spit back with three different versions of my
Yeah.
problem. And I get to look at it and go, I'll be damned. Now suddenly I get to use the higher order thing and I get to evaluate everything and connect it with what I already know. And that's what happened in your workshop where all of a sudden somebody just said something and
Wow.
I forget what it was like, I don't know, $100 or something for the workshop. You get that back in residuals. The thing is it's just kind of one of those simple things like, where's the beef? Like, oh, and you
I'm gonna
only
run
get
that.
that through collaboration. You only get that in opportunities like you set up with your workshops, with working on Substack with other people, with having
Yeah.
conversations, with asking strangers, "What do you think of this?" And seeing if
Yeah.
you can get some honest feedback, 'cause the humans are back, and AI is
Humans are
really just
back.
kinda
Human
replaced.
connection is human connection is the new in vogue, way to be. I think
Uh,
coming out of the
Without a doubt.
pandemic,
I
we
mean,
all.
if you can just meet
Yeah.
up with a person and connect, just even if it's just a conversation at a bar, it's just so wonderful versus, where
Yes.
we've been stuck for about a decade or 2 or 3.
Yeah, I know, and that's actually why I enjoy these lives so much. And I every guest on here is somebody that I would definitely collaborate with again, and somebody that really I would turn to ask questions. So, thank you so much for coming on today, Rich.
Thank you. Great
Yeah,
time.
it's about time, right? We've been talking for like a while. So,
Yes,
all
yeah.
right, everybody, thank you so much for your your participation, everybody. It's been great. And if you have somebody you want to share this with, by all means, the replay will be available soon. All right. Have a great day, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.